Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Cabinet meeting. Can I remind everybody that the meeting is being live streamed to YouTube? Are there any apologies tonight?
Thank you, Chair. I've received apologies from Councillor Temperton and Councillor Pickering.
Thank you. And I confirm that there's no one joining remotely this evening. Item 2 is the declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest, pecuniary or affected? No, none. Item 3 is the minutes. Are there any matters arising or points of accuracy from the Cabinet meeting on the 4th of November? No. I propose that the minutes are adopted as a correct record. Could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bailey, thank you. And then can I have a show of hands for those that agree?
That's unanimous.
Thank you. We've then got a second set of minutes from the extraordinary meeting of the Cabinet on the 26th of November. Are there any matters arising or points of accuracy from that set of minutes? None? Thank you. I then propose that those minutes are adopted as a correct record. Can I have a seconder for those, please? Councillor Jeffries, thank you. And a show of hands.
That's unanimous.
Lovely. Item 4 is the urgent items of business. Any urgent items of business this evening?
No, non-notified, Chair.
Thank you. We then move on to the decision items. The first item, item 5, is the Capital Programme 26 to 2027. Can I ask Councillor Bidwell, Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Regeneration, to present the report?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. Under our Council's constitution, we are required to consult on detailed budget proposals for a minimum of 6 weeks with the Overview and Scrutiny Commission and other stakeholders. Tonight we begin the process by considering the capital programme for 26-27, alongside the medium-term outlook for 28-29. This programme is a critical component of our financial planning. It sets out how we will invest in and maintain the borough's infrastructure and facilities, ensuring that our decisions are both affordable and sustainable. We're operating in a challenging financial environment, so the proposals before us represent a carefully prioritised plan, balancing essential investment with the impact on our revenue budget. For 2026-2027, the proposed capital programme totals 12.83 million, of which 8.05 million will be council funded and 4.7 million supported by external contributions, including government grants and Section 106 funding. Key allocations including property maintenance, highways, housing and community infrastructure, as well as £1 million for investor-safe schemes that deliver long-term efficiencies. Funding will come from a mix of capital receipts, estimated at £4 million, community infrastructure level and borrowing from the remaining 4.05 million. Interest costs on borrowing are projected at 86,000 in 26-27, rising to 172,000 ongoing, excluding minimum revenue provision. UK interest rates have eased but remain volatile, with public works loan board rates around 4.5 to 4.8%, requiring cautious treasury management. The programme complies with the SIPFA Prudential Code, and full council will review prudential indicators in February to ensure affordability and sustainability. These proposals will now go forward for consultation alongside the revenue budget, with final decisions scheduled for February. I encourage all colleagues to consider the strategic importance of these investments and the balance we must strike between ambition and affordability. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. Stuart McKellar, Executive Director for Resources. Do you have anything further to add?
Thank you, Chair. It was a very comprehensive introduction from Councillor Bidwell. The only thing I would add is that we don't currently have details of all the capital grant allocations, so that will come out over the next few weeks and be incorporated in the final budget proposals in February.
Thank you. Do any members have any questions of the officer? No?
Chair, just one.
Go on.
Okay. What is the risk and mitigation plan if projected SIL receipts of 4 million or PLB into authority borrowing costs circa 4.5 million underperform or rise, potentially constraining investment in regeneration priorities?
Yes, you're correct, Councillor Bidwell, that it is based on an estimate and that may not come to fruition. However, the thing I'd say in mitigation is that we tend not to spend the full sum which is approved in the programme within the year to which it is approved. So therefore, the mitigation is in part due to be generally spread the spend over a number of years, which means that we can afford to wait a little bit for the SIL income to come in. It will eventually, it's just the prediction around the exact timing is quite difficult sometimes.
Any more questions? No. Can I therefore ask a member to move the recommendations 3.1 to 3.4 on page 17?
Yes, Chair, I'll move.
Thank you. And can I ask for a seconder, please?
Councillor Gilby, I'll second.
Does the mover wish to speak?
No, I reserve.
The seconder wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. I speak to support the recommendations in the Capital Programme report, which set out a carefully prioritised and responsible programme of investment for the years ahead. Colleagues, capital investment is where this Council's long-term priorities become tangible. It is how we maintain the infrastructure our residents rely on every day, protect the value of our assets, and ensure that decisions taken today do not simply store up bigger costs for the future. In that context, I particularly welcome the continued focus in this programme on transport and highways infrastructure. This budget continues our commitment made in our first budget of 2024-25 to profile an additional £5 million over 4 years towards road maintenance. That investment is clearly reflected in the capital programme before us, with sustained council funding for highways maintenance alongside significant levels of external funding through government grants and incentives. Members will be well aware that Bracknell Forest faces a unique challenge in this area. As a new town authority, much of our highway infrastructure is reaching the end of its design life at the same time. Roads, structures and associated assets that were built decades ago are now all demanding attention simultaneously. The capital programme recognises that reality and responds to it in a measured, planned and sustainable way. Importantly, this is not short-term patching. The programme supports a rolling multi-year approach to highways maintenance aligned with asset condition data and grant allocations, ensuring that investment is targeted where it will have the greatest long-term benefit. That is precisely the sort of disciplined capital planning residents expect from us. Beyond highways, I also welcome the continued investment in integrated transport and local transport plan schemes, supported through external funding such as Section 106 contributions. These schemes ensure that growth pays for growth and that new development is accompanied by the infrastructure needed to support it. More broadly, this capital programme demonstrates a clear understanding of the relationship between capital decisions and revenue consequences. At a time when borrowing costs remain elevated and capital receipts are constrained, the programme prioritises essential maintenance, safety critical works and schemes that protect the Council's asset base, rather than chasing headline projects that would create unsustainable revenue pressures. That discipline matters. Failing to invest in our roads, structures and public assets does not save money. It simply defers costs, often at a higher price and with greater disruption to residents. Chair, this capital programme strikes the right balance, ambitious where it needs to be, cautious where it must be, and firmly grounded in the principle of stewardship for the long term. It supports our transport network, protects our assets, and underpins the wider objectives set out in the revenue budget. For those reasons, I am pleased to second the recommendations in the report and support their approval for consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilby. Any other member wish to speak? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to welcome the 300,000 that's going to be invested in the capital budget that's going to be invested in the ensuring that all our houses are meeting the decent home standards and that we've got a total of 1.1 million investment over the next 3 years. I mean, obviously, we want all our homes to all the accommodation we provide in the borough that belongs to us to meet these decent home standards and be warm and energy efficient. So I'm welcoming that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member? Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'll start off by congratulating everyone involved within Bracknell before our time and during our time. And this congratulation feeds on to Bracknell was recently rated as the 4th best place to live in the UK. This accolade comes with a challenge. The government intends to redistribute funds to more deprived areas, placing severe pressures on our budgets. This means we must act decisively now to approve these capital programs, because if we do not, we risk losing them altogether. By investing today, we are safeguarding essential community assets for difficult years ahead. The capital program forms part of a broader strategy to future-proof assets under our remit. Ensuring that Bracknell remains a thriving, modern community, over the next 3 years, we are investing 1.2 million from 2026 to 2029 in IT infrastructure and hardware upgrades to maintain a robust digital service and operational resilience. The cyber threat is ever increasing, and we cannot afford to be at risk and jeopardize our residents. These services are essential. 22,000 over 26 and 27 will be allocated to flood detection systems at Coral Reef Waterworld, and 85,000 in 26-27 for essential flume tower works. 60,000 will also be allocated to 2027-28 for the replacement of a generator at the crematorium to ensure continuity of service, and 28,000 for a ride-on mower to maintain grounds to the highest standard. Much needed equipment replacements at Downshire Golf Complex are also in the capital program to enhance visitor experience and operational efficiency. These investments demonstrate our commitment to long-term sustainability, safety, and service excellence, ensuring that our facilities meet the needs of today while preparing for the demands of tomorrow. I fully endorse the findings and recommendations that were previously outlined in the condition survey and feasibility report prepared by Lab Sport Limited for the Bracknell Athletics track at Bracknell Leisure Centre. The report provides a detailed and professional assessment of the facility's current condition, highlighting critical performance issues such as failures to meet UK athletics standards for shock absorption and significant surface wear. These findings confirm that the track has reached the end of its operational lifespan and requires major refurbishment to ensure compliance, safety, and continued use for community and competitive events. This athletics track is more than a sporting facility. It is a cornerstone of our community's health, well-being, and sporting heritage. It serves local schools, clubs, and residents, offering opportunities for physical activity, talent development, and social inclusion. By refurbishing this track, we are not only addressing the immediate safety and compliance concerns, but also investing in a legacy for future generations. A modern, high-quality athletics track will inspire young people, nurture elite athletes, and promote lifelong participation in sport. These are values that align with our vision for an active, healthier Bracknell. This capital program has allocated 200,000 from its capital budget and secured 367,000 in Section 106 funds, ensuring that this project is fully funded and ready to proceed. This significant investment reflects the importance we place on maintaining high-quality sports infrastructure for our residents and future generations. In closing, I fully support the proposed refurbishments options and recognise the urgency for undertaking these works within the wider programme over the spring and summer of 2026 to maintain accreditation and safeguard the future of the athletics provision in Bracknell. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Before I come to the mover to speak, I'd just like to highlight the key housing initiative that that's in the recommendations, and that's the purchase of 2 self-contained one-bedroom properties for temporary accommodation. This will be funded using unspent housing capital budgets with no additional borrowing required. It's a prudent use of resources that converts existing funds into permanent assets. This proposal reflects our commitment to fiscal responsibility and ensuring stability for residents while strengthening our housing stock. What this programme shows is how this administration is going to move forward through a challenging financial climate. I am, and I will remain, relentlessly optimistic that with these investments we can continue to make Bracknell Forest one of the best places in the UK to be born, grow up and grow old. If I hand over to the mover to say his words.
Thank you, Chair. Good words, and without, well, I will be repeating myself, the proposed capital programme 26-27 totals 12.83 million, with 8.05 million funded by the council and 4.7 million from external sources, including government grants and Section 106 contributions. I know I've repeated this, but it's important to explain what the outlook looks like. The key priorities include property maintenance, highways, housing and community infrastructure, alongside £1 million for investor safe schemes, a very important part of our budget. Funding will rely on capital receipts, community infrastructure and borrowing, and with interest costs estimated at 86,000 in 26-27. The programme aligns with prudential guidelines and supports long-term sustainability. These proposals will now proceed to consultation, ensuring strategic investment while balancing affordability and revenue pressures ahead of financial decisions in February. I therefore commend recommendations 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4 in your papers, and thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. Anything to sum up, or have you said all you?
Nothing further to add apart from, if I do, I just repeat myself for a third time. Thank you.
Thank you. We move on to the vote then. All those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Item 6, the Revenue Budget 2026 to 27. Councillor Bidwell, Cabinet Member for Economic Development and Regeneration. Can I ask you to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Tonight, review the draft revenue budget for 2026-27, which sets the financial framework for delivering essential services and meeting statutory obligations in a challenging economic environment. These proposals reflect inflationary pressures, pay awards, borrowing costs, and the impact of our capital programme alongside measures to maintain financial resilience and sustainability. The draft budget totals 136.56 million, comprising the commitment budget, inflation provision and identified pressures. Against assumed income of 126.47 million, this leaves a potential funding gap of approximately 10.09 million. To bridge this gap, options include council tax adjustments, further savings and the use of one-off resources supported by reserves currently estimated at 10.59 million. Inflation and pay awards, a 3% pay award is assumed for 26-27, adding 0.4 million to the above previous estimates. Non-pay inflation is limited to essential areas with a 4.5 allocated for previous estimates. Now, non-pay inflation is limited to essential areas with 4.5 allocated for 2026-27, reduced to 3.5 million by 28-29 as pressures ease. Energy costs are expected to stabilise, with electricity prices flat and gas prices falling by 10%. Supported by forward purchasing arrangements. Borrowing and interest costs, despite the bank rate easing to 4%, PWLB borrowing rates remain high. 5-year rates around about 4.2% and 25-year rates above 4.8%. This adds another £500,000 pressure to the 26-27, rising further to subsequent years. The Council's actual borrowing remains below its capital financing requirement, but long-term debt will increase and as proactive measures are taken. Contingency and risk management, a corporate contingency of 3.9 million is maintained to manage risks from demand-led services, business rates, volatility and economic uncertainty. This will be reviewed before final budget approval to ensure robustness. Now, moving to school funding and SEND pressures, DSG allocations remain uncertain with statutory deadlines in January and February. SEND deficits pose significant long-term risks despite government commitments post-2028. The Council has earmarked £23 million to manage these risks under the Safety Valve Agreement. Now we move on to fees and charges. Directorates are working towards a 5% increase balanced against market conditions and statutory requirements. Certain fees will rise above inflation to cost recovery. So what are the next steps? The next steps, the consultation period will run for 6 weeks, allowing scrutiny and public engagement for final decisions in February. We must balance service delivery, affordability and prudential financial management while planning for future uncertainties, including inflation, persistence, interest rate violation, and sadly SEND funding reforms. I now invite the Cabinet to review and approve these recommendations for consultation.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. Stuart McKellar, would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Bidwell has already mentioned that the papers show a budget gap of just over £10 million for 26-27 at the moment. That's before any consideration of a council tax increase. Now, it's not uncommon that we have a budget gap at this stage in the process, but the figure of £10 million is significantly higher than we've seen in previous years. Now, that's in part due to some of the pressures that we're facing on our services, like every other local authority up and down the country, but it is in large part this year due to the most wide-ranging and complex set of funding changes that I can remember, and I've been involved in this system since the mid-1990s. So it's a very significant set of changes, and that's to business rates, to consolidate grants and to redistribute the grants, as Councillor Jeffrey said, to essentially give more priority to deprivation within it. So we don't yet have the full details of that. We expect the provision of funding settlement to be announced tomorrow. When that comes out, then we'll be able to validate are our assumptions correct or not. I don't think they're going to be too far away, but inevitably there will be some changes when we get the detail, and that will be obviously picked up and given consideration between now and February. Thank you, Chair.
Any questions for the officer? Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Chair. I just, obviously we're talking about bringing some efficiencies to the council, even more efficiencies, because I know every year we're doing them. And I just wondered if you had any examples of the efficiencies you're planning for the organisation. Thanks.
Well, there are a very wide range of efficiencies in the budget proposals. So Annex B, I think it is, has details of all the pressures, all the savings. So that's a mixture of looking at where we can generate some additional income, it's staffing changes. We've essentially asked every service area across the council to identify any options that they can bring forward. Better commissioning is something that we're going to be looking at. And there are longer term proposals in there which we will start the work on this year. So things like looking at extra care housing is one of the ones which we expect to have a financial benefit in years 2 or 3, but we need to invest in the upfront work to start with. So very wide ranging set of measures, and they're all set out in the report.
Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you. Given these pressures, what specific measures within the Police Director and wider economic development strategy will ensure that revenue allocations such as inflation provision, 4.5 million, fees and charges posing contingency of 3.9 million, actively support business growth, inward investment and regeneration outcomes, rather than simply maintaining statutory services?
So the budget as it's set out before you tonight obviously sets out the pressures and savings. The work that the council does in its economic development forums, so the Berkshire Prosperity Board, the Bracknell Forest Partnership, are all areas in which we work and use our officers to collaborate, try and generate growth and investment into the local area. I think the days of where we've had things like the Shared Prosperity Fund, which previously would have been used to help stimulate some of those things, has gone. So we're going to have to think more creatively about how we work with both communities, our partners, parish councils, etc., to really start driving the economy in a different way than the way we've done it previously.
Any more questions? Yep, Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Lisa. Just to follow up on that, I mean, I think the community model is really exciting as a way of kind of looking at how we spend money across the council. And I was just wondering, I mean, obviously this is a big programme, and welcome the 3-year funding arrangement, because I think that will help make sure we deliver it. And I was just wondering what the progress of the model was and how far we've got already. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So we started consulting on a community strategy, co-producing it with over 15 other organisations back in sort of early spring, I think, really. And through that co-production approach, we have heard from over 2,000 residents. And that strategy is really informing how we are going to work with local communities to empower residents and community groups to look at how we can deliver services in a different way, so that we can, as you stated earlier on, continue to be that thriving place, to enable us then to focus on the most vulnerable and those that really do need our services. So that has led to the evolution of the community model, which is articulated broadly in these saving proposals. We are currently engaging with those local authorities that are considered to be best practice at delivering and developing a community model. And we will be looking, and conversations have already started with those organisations that have been part of that co-production process. We will then be looking to develop the vision for the model and on articulation of the delivery plan as we roll it out in the next quarter of this financial year, so the Q4 of this financial year, and then into the new financial year for this particular budget. So you'll start to see it being rolled out. It's not a quick fix. It is a way in which the council will be working with its communities. So this is an example of an approach that has been mentioned earlier on, where we're looking to invest now so that we can change and adapt for the future.
Thank you. Any more questions? Can I ask a member to move the recommendations on 3.1 to 3.6 on page 35?
Yes, Chair, happy to move recommendations 3.1, 3.2 and 3.3.
Thank you. And can I ask for a seconder?
Yes, Chair, I'm happy to second. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the mover wish to speak?
No, I reserve, thank you.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak?
Thank you. Yes, Chair. Today I'm happy to second a revenue budget that reflects our commitment to the community. At its heart, this budget prioritises children's and adults' social care, which together account for approximately 60% of our overall spend. 57% of this is in providing services, and the remainder in prevention and early intervention work. This is not just a figure, it is a statement of our values. We are investing where it matters most, safeguarding lives, supporting independence and building stronger families. The government's new multi-year settlement brings both opportunities and responsibilities. We welcome the 3.4 billion of new grant funding nationally, with 900 million earmarked for adult social care and 866 million for children's social care reform over the next 3 years. Nationally, this means additional resources to strengthen prevention, improve outcomes and meet new statutory duties. These funds will flow through consolidated grants such as the Children, Families and Youth Grant, designed to help councils intervene early and de-escalate crises before they happen. And we welcome the fact that grants have been consolidated so they're easier to manage. However, we need to be clear that here in Bracknell Forest, pressures remain significant for next year alone. The People Directorate faces 3.3 million in unavoidable pressures, driven by rising care needs, legislative changes and inflation in care contracts. These pressures are not optional, they reflect real people needing real support. Whether it is an older resident requiring home care or a child needing protection, these are the services we cannot and will not compromise on. Our approach to this is twofold: responsible investment and proactive reform. For adults, we will continue to integrate health and social care through the Better Care Fund, ensuring seamless support for those with complex needs. At the same time, we are looking to do things differently, investigating the creation of extra care housing for adults and working with our neighbouring boroughs to ensure that we manage the market for social care providers. For children, we will use new funding streams to strengthen family support, reduce reliance on costly placements and deliver on the national ambition for reform. Prevention is not just good practice, it's good economics. For every pound spent on early help saves multiple pounds later in crisis intervention. Our revenue budget supports engaged and healthy communities, aligns with our council plan priorities and demonstrates that even in challenging times we think proactively and keep people first and foremost in our plans. Members, please support this budget because behind every line is a child, a family or an older person who depends on us. Together we can deliver care with compassion, efficiency and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Gilby.
Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, the draft budget proposes the removal of 3 high-cost, low-passenger bus routes: the 151/151A, the 299 and the 598. These proposals are not taken lightly, and it is important to explain the basis on which they have been brought forward. These are supported bus routes, meaning they operate only because the council provides a subsidy. They do not generate a commercial return, and they exist to meet a social need in areas that cannot sustain a viable commercial service. As a council, we have a duty to ensure that public money is used wisely and fairly. That requires us to look not only at whether a service is valued, but also how many people it serves and at what cost. To illustrate that point, let me compare these routes with 2 of our most heavily used supported services. Colleagues, brace yourself, there will be an avalanche of numbers. Between October 24 and September 25, the 108 carried over 62,000 passengers at a subsidy cost of £2.42 per passenger. In the same period, the 150 carried just over 79,000 passengers at a subsidy of £1.26 per passenger. By contrast, in that same time frame, the 151/151A together carried just over 10,000 passengers, the 299 carried a little over 5,500 passengers, and the 598 just over 2,500. This results in subsidy costs respectively of £11.78, £13.45 and £16.86. Colleagues, at a time of significant financial pressure, these figures do not represent good value for money, particularly when every pound spent on very low usage routes is a pound that cannot be invested in more heavily used bus services or, as Councillor Wright explained, other essential council priorities. That said, I fully recognise that these services are important to the residents who use them, even where passenger numbers are low. Where there is strong local desire to retain a route and where costs can be shared, there may be alternative ways forward. This is why this administration is committed, between the publication of the draft budget and the final budget being agreed next year, to entering into discussions with town and parish councils across the borough and with neighbouring authorities where appropriate to explore whether there are ways their financial resources could contribute to preserving these bus routes. I look forward to those conversations, and I invite town and parish councils in Bracknell Forest to consider whether they wish to work with us to support the continuation of bus routes that are valued by their users. Members, we inherited a bus network from the previous administration. We have worked hard to manage it as effectively as possible, but the reality is that it is time to step back and look at the bus network as a whole. That is why I am pleased that this budget announces the first step towards a bus review, a holistic assessment of the network alongside meaningful engagement and consultation with communities in our borough about what they need from public transport. This is a multi-year project, timed to coincide with the expiry of the current supported bus contracts in 2028. Further detail will emerge should this measure be agreed in next year's budget, but what excites me is that even in a time of financial constraint, Bracknell Forest Council continues to be ambitious and forward-thinking in how it approaches public transport. Rather than simply accepting the status quo, we are using these challenging circumstances as an opportunity to innovate and to think big about how our bus network can best serve Bracknell Forest into the late 2020s and beyond. This administration was elected on a pledge to improve public transport. We have not stopped at agreeing an ambitious local transport plan. We know there is more to do, and we are proud of the progress we have made and the clear direction of travel we are now setting since being elected in 2023. Additionally, the budget proposes to reduce the reactive street lighting repair budget by 10%. This does not mean we will not repair street lights, but we will adopt a risk-based approach that enables efficient and strategic use of our financial resources. We will continue to log any incidents of street lights not working, and I encourage residents to continue reporting these in. Chair, before I conclude, I want to briefly touch on the budget's commitment to review the lease terms of the Lookout. The Lookout is, and always has been, located on Crown Estate land. Officers are discussing ways in which the lease arrangements could be amended to enable further investment into the site over the coming years. The Council remains fully committed through ongoing negotiations to securing the best possible outcome for residents and visitors. Members, at a time of significant financial challenge, Bracknell Forest Council continues to demonstrate strong financial management while remaining ambitious in the services we provide for our communities. I am pleased to endorse this budget for consultation, and I encourage residents, town and parish councils and all stakeholders to engage with this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak? No? Again, before I hand back to you, Councillor Bidwell, I'm just going to say a few words about the revenue budget. So, this budget represents a shift towards a new way of thinking and a new way of working with our communities, with the specific budget that's set aside for the implementation of the community strategy. We want to empower our local communities to take action and enable community groups, faith groups, town and parish and the voluntary sector to deliver services with their community for their community. This is a challenging time, but it's also a really positive opportunity to innovate, to collaborate and to learn new ways of working and providing these services. I also want to touch on the consultation to stress that this is your opportunity, residents of Bracknell Forest, to have your say, to you agree or to disagree with the investments and proposals that this council has set out. This is your council, and I would encourage everyone to complete the consultation, which starts tomorrow, either online or by visiting us. We will be at, we'll have pop-ups around the borough, and those dates and times will be advertised. You have the ability to effect change and be a part of the future of Bracknell Forest, so please do get involved and do have your say. Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, colleagues, for delving into some of the detail in their areas that help support this budget. It's important to bring it to life. I've been dealing with the top-level numbers, but to understand that we are talking about our contracts, our community, with our leisure partners, to be able to make this a reality is very, very important. But I will restate the numbers because these numbers need to be understood across many months to come, and hopefully maybe even better, depending on the progress of officers who have done a great job and my colleagues. The draft budget, just to restate, for 2026-27 totals 136.56 million, reflecting inflation, pay awards and borrowing costs. Against anticipating income of 126.473 million, a funding gap, sadly, of just over 10 million remains. Options to bridge this gap include council tax adjustments, savings and one-off resources supported by reserves of 10.5 million. This is where we are at the moment, but it doesn't include, of course, the conversations that my colleagues are having with officers and community and contracts. Key assumptions include a 3% pay award. We are not sure whether that is going to be the case, but we have to make these assumptions. And a £4.5 million inflation provision. Again, that is something that we cannot determine. And a 3.9 million contingency to manage risk. Well, again, that is all we can afford to do. And those figures could change depending on what the rate of inflation and external pressures on the economy. So back to the consultation. It's really, really important that the residents engage with that. It will run for 6 weeks before a final decision made by council in February, ensuring a balanced approach to service delivery, affordability and financial sustainability. I urge my colleagues to support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you wish to sum up?
Well, at the risk of repeating myself, no, I think that's probably enough.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. And then we'll move on to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 7, which is the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman Annual Review Letter 24/25. Councillor Jeffreys, Cabinet Member for Leisure, Culture, Public Protection and Democracy, could I ask you to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. This report represents the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman, or LGSCO, Annual Review Letter for 2024-2025, summarising Bracknell Forest Council's performance in handling complaints. The Council's high complaints and satisfactory remedy rates demonstrate a proactive approach to resolving complaints and improving services despite challenges in areas such as SEND provision. From the report, I'd just like to highlight a few key factors, and I think this commends the team and the hard work that they've put into this. Out of the 11 complaints investigated, 100% were upheld. And if we compare that to the national average, that's 83% nationally. If we adjusted that for our population per 100,000, that would be 8.6 upheld per 100,000 residents, with the average, national average being 6.3. 6 cases, so just to dive a little bit deeper, 6 cases were under the special education needs and disabilities, 3 cases were under children's social care, 2 cases were under housing, and this reflects the national trends and systematic SEND challenges. So tonight I'm asking the Cabinet to note the LGSCO Annual Review Letter, note the high compliance and proactive remedies demonstrated through strong commitment to service improvement despite ongoing SEND challenges. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can I ask Kevin Gibbs, Executive Director for Communities, if they have anything further to add?
Thank you, Chair. The first thing to note on the report is that although there is only 11 complaints, each of those is a story behind, and the council always looks to see the impact on those individuals to ensure that the decisions we make are reasonable and have their best interests at heart. The fact that in these cases we have not met our own high standards is something that we will work on and have worked on with these individuals. That said, as a proportion, 11 complaints represents just a subset of the complaints that the council handles over a year and a subset of the hundreds of thousands of transactions that we undertake. So in recognising that these are the cases that we need to learn the most from, we also recognise that in comparison to other unitary authorities, this is a very low number. As I said, we have been working incredibly hard in improving our management of complaints, and as the report sets out, we are now in line with the new LGSO guidance in terms of a two-stage process rather than a three-stage process as previously. As I said, Chair, we are focused on making sure that we learn from each complaint that brings forward, and we understand the impact for every individual, and this is part of our process of acknowledging their position in public and making sure that people understand how we manage what is a very complicated set of arrangements, but where we fail, we make it clear why we have failed and then deal with it appropriately.
Thank you. Any questions for the officer? Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you, Chair. This is 24-25. How does that reflect on the previous year? Are we improving or not improving? And is that because we're better at reporting or not?
I'm happy to answer that, Councillor Bidwell. Our current year is the lowest since 2021 to 2022, and for this year, for this period, we are 4 down from last year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? That's
just,
right.
Sorry, thank you. Just on a similar vein, is the trend in complaints sort of consistent? Like, I can see we've got the highest peak in education and learning. Is that usually how it looks, or are we seeing any emerging risks there, or improvements? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Generally, the complaints profile matches the peaks and troughs in our business. Clearly, SEND is an area where we have a lot of focus, and therefore, as we've been working through those complaints over a period of time with those complainants, this will be the year that they've appeared. So it is a sort of an early indication warning of where we have issues, but it is always a backward-looking indicator. So not such a position of what's happening now, but at the end of what will be a complicated set of arrangements. So in terms of, I think it's a thing of looking back 2 years and seeing how we have been working on issues. So yeah, more an early indication rather than be able to then compare it in terms of what's going on now.
Any further questions? Okay. And any member like to speak? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Councillor Roy Bailey. In support of this, I'd just like to make the following observations. Bracknell Forest Council is a learning organisation, and as such it is keen to learn all the lessons from complaints, not just from the LGSCO, but from all resident feedback. We take all complaints and feedback constructively and seriously. Where there are patterns of behaviour, action is taken to ensure they are understood and acknowledged, so that improvements and training can be introduced where necessary. There are regular learning events in services where the context and learning from cases is discussed. These are important sessions and are seen as an opportunity to reflect. It is also now possible for users of the complaint system to provide feedback on the process. This will help us to understand about people's experience of making a complaint and what we can do to improve it, including any opportunities to learn. This is a topic covered regularly in my briefings with the Executive Director for People Services, who encourages me to challenge her on this particular area. I'm always keen to look at the methodology for data collection so that we can have reassurance and certainty about the accuracy of the analysis. We consistently look at the key messages from the complaints so that we can obviate similar mistakes where they occur in the future and be confident we have fully distilled all learnings. This is an ongoing process and there is still room for progress. I'm also keen to capture other feedback that may not necessarily be contained in formal complaints to the LGSCO and Council. Making a formal complaint is neither easy nor quick. It takes a lot of time, focus and stress. It can be, for some, an exhausting process. There are many reasons why some residents don't feel able to take that formal route, and some, sadly, have no confidence in the system. We therefore need to bear all of this in mind when making judgments about complaints and customer feedback. During the last few months with a council officer, I've been making regular outreach visits to parents, to parent carers, to SENCOs, head teachers and pupils with SEND to get the widest possible understanding. The insights gleaned from these visits have been very powerful, and we intend to learn from them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Does anybody else wish to speak? No, as the report is for noting, I can confirm that the Cabinet have noted the report. We then move on to item 8, which is the Parking Standards Supplementary Planning Document Consultation Draft. Councillor Gilby, Cabinet Member for Planning, Transport and Countryside, can I ask you to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Before we turn to the detail of the report, I think it is helpful to take a step back and explain in simple terms what this document is and, just as importantly, what it is not. The Parking Standards Supplementary Planning Document is guidance. It does not create new planning policy, it does not change the local plan, and it does not override decisions made by this Cabinet or by Council. Instead, it provides clarity and consistency on how existing, already adopted local plan policies are applied when planning applications come forward. The current parking standards date back to 2016. Since then, a great deal has changed, not only in national planning guidance, but in how people live, work and travel. We have seen increased home working, rapid growth in electric vehicles, changes to the use classes order, and the adoption of the aforementioned new Bracknell Forest local plan in 2024. The guidance we rely on needs to reflect that reality. At its heart, this document is about balance. It is about ensuring that new developments provide appropriate parking without creating unnecessary pressure on surrounding streets, while also recognising that different locations in the borough have different levels of accessibility to public transport, services and facilities. It also places a strong emphasis on good design, ensuring parking is safe, usable and integrated properly into new developments, and on future-proofing too, particularly through clear expectations around electric vehicle charging and sustainable travel. Finally, it is important to stress that we are not being asked tonight to adopt this document. What is before us is an agreement to consult, to seek views from residents, developers, town and parish councils, neighbouring authorities and statutory consultees, so that the final version is informed by real-world experience and local knowledge. This is a sensible, proportionate step that ensures transparency and engagement before any final decisions are made. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilby. Can I ask Andrew Hunter, Executive Director for Place, to add anything if they see fit?
Yes, just 2 points from me. Firstly, that the document is seeking to set out the flexibility arrangements that we would look to consider when dealing with planning applications, particularly in the most sustainable location of Bracknell Town Centre. So I think that's a sort of a key change that we should pick up. And just secondly, we will be running a 4-week consultation that would take place in the new year following Cabinet tonight if approved. And then following that, we would be bringing back the final document for approval to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Andrew? None? Okay. Can I have a mover then, please?
Councillor Gilby, I'm happy to move.
Thank you, and I'm happy to second. Do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I am pleased to propose the recommendations in this report. Colleagues, the Parking Standards SPD is a practical but important piece of work. It underpins how we deliver development across the borough, not in theory, but on the ground, street by street, neighbourhood by neighbourhood. The existing standards are nearly a decade old. They reflect a planning system, a transport network, a way of living that no longer matches the Bracknell Forest of today. We have a newly adopted local plan, a modern local transport plan, clear ambitions around climate change, sustainable travel and placemaking. It is right that our guidance keeps pace. What I particularly welcome in this draft is its pragmatism. It does not impose a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, it recognises that highly accessible locations, such as Bracknell Town Centre and the areas around our key transport hubs, can and should be treated differently where robust evidence supports that approach. That flexibility is not automatic, it is not guaranteed, and it is not a free-for-all. It is evidence-led, carefully controlled, and applied on a case-by-case basis. Equally important is what this document does to protect residents. By setting clear expectations for developers, including where flexibility is acceptable and where it is not, we reduce ambiguity, reduce conflict, and reduce the risk of poor outcomes that lead to parking overspill and pressure on existing communities. I also strongly support the emphasis on future-proofing, clear standards for electric vehicle charging, recognition of changing work patterns, and better integration between parking provision and sustainable transport measures such as travel planning and, where appropriate, car clubs. These are not abstract concepts. They are about making sure development works in practice, not just on paper. Finally, I want to be clear about process. Consulting on this draft is not only the right thing to do, it is a statutory requirement. This consultation will allow residents, businesses and stakeholders to shape the final document before it comes back to Cabinet for adoption as a material consideration in planning decisions. Chair, this is sensible, modern guidance that reflects how Bracknell Forest is growing and changing while protecting the quality of life in our communities. For those reasons, I'm happy to propose the recommendations and support the draft being approved for public consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I'm seconding, I will speak to this now. I wanted to second this item and speak in support of the Parking Standards Supplementary Planning Document and the consultation. As Councillor Gilby has already said, this update is essential because our current 2016 standards no longer reflect modern needs. But this isn't just about parking, it's about community. The SPD directly supports the community strategy, which aims to build a connected, inclusive and healthy neighbourhoods. By reducing street congestion and improving access to all, families and older residents and those with mobility needs, we create safer, more welcoming spaces. And of course, cycle and EV provisions promote active lifestyles, cleaner air, helping us deliver a healthy, sustainable borough. But most importantly, the consultation reflects our commitment to including residents in decision making. And just as with the budget, we invite everyone, residents, businesses and partners, to shape these parking standards. And your feedback will ensure that developments meet real community needs while supporting growth and sustainability. Would anybody else like to speak? Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, I agree with everybody. So I just wanted to make a point that one of the things that I'm excited about is the car club element to this. I think it's an opportunity that hasn't been exploited before, so really looking forward to the outcome of the consultation and what we can do to progress that. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? Or we shall move to the vote. All those in favour?
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 9. These agenda items 9 and 10 are supported by annexes containing exempt information as defined in Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972. Does any member wish to discuss the content of any of these annexes? If so, we'll need to close this meeting and exclude the press and the public. But as our dear leader says, we want to keep these meetings open and transparent. And I ask, therefore, if possible, we can avoid going into the pink confidential papers so that we can do so. Agreed? Thank you. Okay, item 9, disposal of an investment asset. Councillor Jeffreys, can you please present the report? Councillor Bidwell, can you please present the report?
I can. Thank you, Chair. The report proposes the disposal of one out-of-borough freehold investment asset owned by Bracknell Forest Council as part of its commercial property investment strategy. This strategy initially focused on acquisition but has shifted to strategic holding or disposal due to revised financial rules. The disposal is recommended to optimise financial returns and manage risk. This disposal supports the ongoing budget position of the Council. Officers sought to negotiate the best consideration for the sale. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask Andrew Hunter, Executive Director, if he has anything to like to add?
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions for the officer? None. Can I ask for a member then to move the recommendations?
Yes, Chair, I'd like to move recommendation 3.1 in your papers.
Thank you. And I'll also be seconding this item. Would the mover like to speak?
No, I'll reserve.
Thank you. I will just say a few words quickly then. I'm pleased to second this recommendation. The commercial property investment strategy has delivered strong financial returns since 2016, helping us to protect core services. This disposal represents best value and reduces future risk. Crucially, again, it supports our community strategy by safeguarding financial resilience, the foundation that enables us to invest in connected, inclusive and healthy communities across Bracknell Forest. Would anybody else like to speak? No. Would the mover like to speak now?
Yes, I'd like to sum up and obviously agree with what you've just said, that I'm in full support of that. I'd just like to sum up by saying since these acquisitions, government rules have tightened, restricting property investment to local economy development or regeneration purposes. In response, the Council is adopting a strategic asset management approach to maximise returns from its out-of-borough portfolio. External advice has been sought and detailed report will follow with recommendations for each property. One tenant has offered to purchase their leased property. This is what we're talking about tonight. And officers believe this represents best value for Bracknell Forest. Alternative options have been assessed and disposal is recommended to minimise future financial risk while ensuring compliance with evolving regulations and securing optimal long-term outcomes for the Council. So please support this.
Thank you, Councillor Bidwell. If we move to the vote, all those in favour, please raise your hand.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 10, which is the award of care contract. Councillor Wright, Cabinet Member for Adults and Public Health. Can you present the report for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. Today I'm presenting for your approval an interim care contract to begin in February 2026 for a period of up to 3 years. This step is essential to maintain continuity of safe, high-quality care for those who rely on these services. The current provider is unable to continue under the existing contract terms and a mutual termination is being agreed. Due to the change, we will not meet the time requirements to complete a full procurement process before the current arrangement ends. This makes an interim award necessary to ensure service stability and avoid disruption for vulnerable residents. This contract underpins our statutory duties under the Care Act. It ensures we meet eligible needs, maintain continuity of care and support market stability during this transition. The recommendation before you includes delegating authority to the Executive Director of Resources and the Executive Director of People to adjust the contract start date if required and finalise exit and transition arrangements with both current and incoming providers. The incoming provider has been assessed for quality and value for money. Financial modelling indicates cost avoidance savings over the proposed term, and the award will be made under the light touch regime of the Procurement Act 2023. No changes are proposed to eligibility or the service model. Finally, I would like to assure Cabinet members that during this whole process, in the run-up to transition from one provider to another, Bracknell Forest has kept the needs of the residents and the delivery of quality of care paramount. As Cabinet member, the officers have kept me updated. They have provided the reassurance that the right people from the Council have been involved, supporting staff and monitoring the delivery of services directly. I commend these recommendations and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I think I'm joined by Sally Parkinson as well.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wright. Sally Parkinson, Assistant Director for Commissioning. Do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No.
Thank you. Has any member got any questions for the officer? Councillor Bidwell.
Thank you, Chair. I note that the extension of the contract award is not to exceed 3 years. Is that a contingency measure, and the hope is to award a new contract before that time?
We would be entering into a procurement process very soon after the award of the contract. Due to the complexity of the procurement, it is recommended that a 3-year period is allowed to be able to do our procurement as we need to do.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, could I ask for a mover? Okay, can I ask for a mover for recommendation, the first 2 recommendations that we can see on the board?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to move. Thank you.
And can I have a seconder?
Councillor Roy Bailey, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Does any other member wish to speak? No. Shall I go to sum up?
Thank you. I don't really have much to add. I've actually accidentally read both my speeches at once. but yeah, just that additional reassurance that this has been very smoothly run, and massive thanks to the officers for their hard work in this over the past year. It's been really good to see and really reassuring for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wright, and thank you for the reassurance as well. Ultimately, it's the residents that we need to be concerned about, and their care, their level of care. So thank you. Okay, if I can have a vote then, just on the first 2 recommendations. All those in favour?
That's unanimous.
Thank you. Due to the nature of the 3rd recommendation, we're going to have to close the meeting to the public and the press. If you could please let me know when that's been actioned.
I'll get the
Thank
meeting.
you.